Hey there, it's Thomas from Minecraft Frontiers, and today I have a really special piece of content for you. It's gonna be a behind the scenes look at how the whole team works and how the project is run. We have never done this piece of content, and I think it's gonna be really exciting and really unique because not a lot of teams would show you how they actually operate in the background. It's kind of like a top secret thing, right? So I thought it would be really nice to actually share this with the community and with others to both let them see how to run a Minecraft team, and also to actually share how our specific team is put together and the bigger ideas behind the project. If you don't know Minecraft Frontiers, it's a Minecraft server that has been in production for 4 or 5 years, so it's a really long-term big project. We are going to be releasing the server in March later this year, so next month it's going to be released. And this is just to show you what I do as a person on an everyday basis. So I own the project, I have put it together 4 years ago. I have had a big team over the years. Some of the members have been there since the start, but a lot of them have changed. So what I actually do is both put the team together, and also you could call me, I guess, like a creative director. So what I do is put the features together to make sure the vision kind of sticks. So if you have a really good builder who can build amazing things, and you have a really good law writer who can write amazing law, how do those two people actually come together? How do they make sure their two ideas meet somewhere? That's kind of my job, to actually make sure that people who are super talented can deliver super fun things. So what I'm gonna show you today is a lot of stuff in the background that nobody has seen before. You can see this is the website, so let's start here. Website is really straightforward, but it does change from time to time. So whenever we release something new, so we're gonna be releasing new events. So once the server launches, we have a lot of content planned. There's gonna be an event every single weekend pushing the story of the server. So story events, those are gonna be displayed here. So me as an owner, I have to go over this part of the website, decide what we want to share with the community, and actually make sure this is displayed over here. So what's going to be changing on this website in the next few weeks? So you're going to see a calendar of all the events, you're going to see descriptions of the storylines that are going on, and you're going to be able to kind of click and participate in those stories. So this is an example of something that's changing. Another thing that's actually takes us a lot of time is the donations. So we're going to be enabling donations once the server launches. And what I really care about is making sure the donations don't screw up the whole experience, right? I really hate games that are super awesome at its core, or at their core, and then they release a super stupid donation package that screws the whole thing up. So what I do is I spend a lot of time thinking about these donations to make sure they're balanced and that they're fun, both for the people who donate, but also for the people who cannot or do not want to donate. So for example, signature items, we decided that people who donate can design their own item, but actually to get that item, they have to craft an item of equal value first. So you will not be able to buy a super special sword, but you will be able to craft a super special sword in the game, and then create a signature item out of that. So this is something that's actually quite balanced. Recipes, you can design your own recipes if you donate, but if you design that recipe, every single player in the game can craft the same recipe. So this is an example of a donation that's actually fun for both the player who donates, but also for people who do not donate, because they're gonna have a lot more new items to play and interact with. So we spent quite a lot of time thinking about donations, and this is something I, as the owner, am responsible for, because I really care about the financial part of the whole equation. But I really even care more about that the financial part of the equation doesn't ruin the whole project. So we have not been collecting any donations for 4 or 5 years, and I was always super keen on making sure that's possible. So if we don't want to monetize this at all, we don't have to. So these donations are something that are more fun than a necessity. So we would not have to use these, but it's fun to actually implement these. I think it's gonna make the experience better if we have these than if we do not have these. So this is something I have been working on. Forums, that's a big part. So I think community is really important. Every team member on the Minecraft Frontiers teams thinks community is really important. So what we try to do is talk to all of our players. So once you come onto the forums, you are free to post ideas, questions, information. You can even insult us in a civilized manner. You can say this idea is stupid, I don't agree with that. And I will actually come here and try to answer some of the bigger ideas. Sometimes a team member cannot answer it, or doesn't have like the responsibility or power to make that decision, so sometimes I get on here and try to answer some of the bigger ideas. But we have an amazing forum team that actually looks after these discussions, so most of the time I don't actually have to come on here, which saves me a lot of time. We have a wiki. Wiki is super important. It tells our players the specifics of the world. What items can you craft? How do you craft them? Where can you trade them? What can you explore? All of these ideas. We have a specific wiki team. They would be creating the content. What I have to do is sometimes come here and make sure actually the content is okay and that we're not missing any big sections. So if we have a big piece of content coming up, we're gonna have some PvP. For release, we're gonna have alchemy. We might want to write a specific page on alchemy. So what I would do is actually take the alchemy system, learn how it works, and tell this to the wiki team so they can actually write it up. So this is something I do, but it doesn't take me too much time because the wiki team is really, really good. Okay, let's move to the super secret stuff. So this is something nobody has seen before, nobody outside of the team has seen before, because this is actually top secret stuff. This is all the information, all the designs, all the items, everything we ever decided about Minecraft Frontiers, it gets stored in Google Drive. So we have a drive that's restricted only to our team members, and whenever we make any sort of decision, we store it here. What's really, really good about this is that if I made this decision 3 years ago, so let's say I decided on exports, so this is how people export their stuff they craft. This would be decided in 2016, but I can come here today and see exactly what the decision was. So what was my thinking about the system? How was it implemented? What are some of the main features we are trying to deliver? Once we have it here, we can actually write up the whole document, decide how the system is going to work live. So how often do we want to change requisitions? So how often should the items you can export change? Is it one real life day? Make this adjustable so it's adjustable at the moment. So you can see kind of our thinking, right? How has this thinking evolved over time? Each town has export slots. Our main town will have 6 export slots. So all of the biggest decisions are made on this Google Drive. Once we're happy with the decision, we can pass this to the devs to actually make this happen on the server. I can show you a few different examples. So some of it is literally like a list of content that we want to store in a centralized place. So you will be able to build houses on the server. You can buy a plot and then build a pre-made house in the plot. What I've been doing over the past week is creating a list of all the houses that you can actually build in these plots. So this is a big list of, it's obviously really incomplete. I've just started creating this document, but this is going to be a document documenting all of the possible houses you can build both as a player and as a town. So towns themselves can order houses as well. So you can build a graveyard or build a library or a halo. And this is really useful not just because of listing things, but because it helps you balance things as well. So for example, we can come here and see that player housing, that's 13 by 13. It has crafting tables, furnaces, and 2 6-slot chests. So, sorry, 6-row chests. If we decide that, or if we figure out that there's not enough storage for players, we can actually come to these documents and figure out, okay, where can players store them? Where can a player store his or her items? We see that it's here. If it's too low, we can actually try to increase this, and this gives us like an informed view into how the decisions actually come together. This is even more obvious when you start thinking about armor. So if you encounter a creature, let's say we have a big boss that's like a golem, and the golem just kills players over and over again. And we think they still have armor, but the armor doesn't work the way we want. So we can actually come here and see what percentage does the armor block, right? So a chest is responsible for 50% of the blocking power, legs 30%, feet 10%, head is the last 10%. There's a lot more to this, so we have different armor sets that block different types of damage. I cannot show you this is too top secret. But we have different qualities, so something like a common armor would be able to block up to 30% of stuff total. A fine or exceptional could actually block half of the damage you're getting. This is going to be specific to the damage type, so if you get something like a fire armor, it would be mainly blocking fire damage and not other damage. So you actually really have to think about those armor types. And that's going to be listed in the armor sets. So you can see we have information on every single game system that we have ever put together. We have a few of these different drives, so this is the latest one. Mainly has stuff from this year, but we have different drives for stuff from previous years. Stuff like reputation. So reputation tiers, we have to, this is just to show you that every single thing that happens on the server has to be decided somewhere. So it's not just like you go in and stuff is immediately there. It's not as if a developer can create all of this stuff in their mind, because if they do that, it's going to be a really confusing experience. So every single thing that happens on the server has been decided somewhere. Maybe the decision is not good, but because we have all of these stuff stored on the drive, we can actually go back to these decisions and rethink these. So I'm not happy with these names, they're gonna be changed. So this is an example of something that we want to change. This is an example of a reputation tier system. So as you do stuff on the server, you collect reputation points, and once you exceed these thresholds that we have set up here, you actually move to different reputation ranks. So you start as an unknown person. If you are really evil, you lose a lot of points. You might drop and be disliked by the city of El Pita, for example, right? If that happens, you are -2 reputation tier, and then we can use this with the NPCs to give you different interactions. So maybe shopkeepers will give you really bad prices, or something like a guard would start actually to attack you if you are getting super low on your reputation with that reputation tier. But this is, we have to decide like what the numbers are gonna be, right? It's gonna be easy to lose points, it's gonna be hard to lose points, it's gonna be easier to progress than to actually lose points. What are these decisions? So a lot of stuff has to be made, has to be decided, and usually I am the person who decides the bigger ideas, because there has to be a person who actually makes sure all of these ideas come together. So we're really open with the development. So we have our Discord. This is where both the members of the community, so that's the text channels at the top, and the team, where they discuss different features. And whenever I have like a big feature in mind, I always want to discuss it with players, so it's not just my idea, because players have sometimes better ideas, right? I will not be the person who has always the best ideas. So it's really important to communicate kind of the ideas and the visions with others, not just to share it with them, but to get feedback from them. And we do that in the general chat here, but also in the staff chat here. So this is kind of like a hidden area of Discord, and you can see people are just asking specific ideas. So do we want to enable sugarcane for players? Do we want to share sugarcane as a harvestable resource for players? Do we want to define that? We share ideas really quickly in Discord. And moving to Discord has helped us a lot in speeding up the whole dev process. It makes it so much easier. So if we just need to do something quickly, we can just drop it into Discord, tag the person, and they know exactly what to do. Sometimes when the idea is bigger, when it needs to be actually stored and communicated in a lot more detail, we can go to our dev place. So this is where we store all of our code. It's pretty substantial. We have been working on it for multiple years, so it's a really big plugin. I don't remember how many lines, but it's a lot of lines of code. And what you can see here is that we can have issues and requests. So whenever a piece of code gets finished, it is requested to be merged back into the server and updated into the server. So you can see Alex, he worked on durability. So whenever you have a sword, if you use the sword to attack other creatures or players, it will get gradually damaged over time, and you will have to replace the sword. So this is a feature that we used to have, and we had to reprogram it to actually make it work with the new features that we have. So Alex has finished this, and he is saying this is finished. We can actually merge it back into the plugin and release it to the players. So there's 2 finished pieces of code. You can see outstanding issues. So these are features that we need to actually create, and some of them have timelines. So we actually have to, I think this is gonna get pushed back. You can see there's a lot of features waiting for release 1.0. So the release is gonna be pushed back to March. But this is where we actually store all of these, right? So something like, let's see, what can I show you? Wells. So wells are gonna be important. So if you wanna collect water from a well, right? Water is important for a lot of recipes. We actually need to create those wells. So this is one of those features. Server first. So let's imagine you craft a legendary sword, and you're the first person to ever craft this legendary sword. What we want to have is a feature that announces it to you, so it says, oh wow, you're the first person to ever craft this legendary, this is amazing. It might even announce it to other players. We still have to decide on that. Actually, it might, for the legendary items, just announce it to the whole server. Wow, this person crafted a legendary item at the moment. But what we also want to do is store it in a database. So we want to have a website that is like a big leaderboard, and it's gonna say, oh wow, Thomas, he crafted 3 legendary items as the first person, and this is the items that they crafted. And those items will forever be stored as your legendary, your first craft, right? And other players will be able to go to this database and see who was the first person who crafted the backburner? That's our legendary fire longsword. Who was the first person? And if you happen to be the first person, that's gonna be there forever. I think that's gonna be really fun. But you can see this is a pretty sizable feature, so creating this could take quite a bit of time. We have a lot of those for 1.0, so we actually closed a lot of issues, we implemented a lot of requests, so we merged 27 requests over the past few weeks, and we have 15 bigger features to go. Some of these are not scheduled for 1.0, so the PvP arena, that's a really big feature. That's gonna be either 1.1 or 1.2, which is a few months from release. But you can see there's a lot of stuff that we actually work on. Partly why I'm showing you this is actually to show you that people work on stuff like every single day, right? So even though we do not share stuff, we do not share videos, maybe we don't announce big features, like every single day people work on this stuff, and this stuff is getting developed all the time, pretty much. So the other thing that I want to show you is to show you the server. We have a lot of internal servers. Some of these you will actually not even know about. We have 4 different things. So we have our local servers. This is one on my machine. So this is something that only I have access to. So if I want to make quick changes to the server, just test some of the features without actually deploying them anywhere, I can test it locally. We have the live server. So this is where players are going to be playing. Currently 20 slots, but it's going to be much higher once we release later next month. We have the build server. This is a semi-public server, so any player can request to be whitelisted on the server. And once you are, you can come here and you can start building things. And once we are happy with the build here, they get moved back to the public server. We have a dev server. This is a place to test all of our features. So as you can see, we have a lot of features and they have to be tested somewhere. So if you go here, or if I go here, only the devs have access to the server. This helps us test all of the features. This helps us test all of the features that we have planned and that we have just released. So you can see this is like a big playground of all the different features. So for example here there's steps, and we have steps because we have been changing the stamina system. So the question is, how much stamina should it take to actually run up steps, right? So silly things like this actually take a lot of effort to put together. So this is like a place where you can actually test all of the features that we have coming up. So we have a new food system, apples, how much food should they restore? We'll have different nutrients, how much nutrients of each type should an apple restore. We can test that here really easily on the dev server. Builds. So I'm not a good builder, right? I just overlook the whole process, but what I can do is go to this server and see what has been happening. This has different worlds, so this is actually this is we call it Genesis, which is the game server. So this is how the server is gonna look like once you log in. And I can come here and see what the progress was like. The builders we have are really good. We have Isaiah, which is our head builder. He is super impressive, he builds really cool stuff. He just built these ruins a few days ago. So this server is for us internally to actually work on this. So this is not something players have access to. But imagine you're playing on a server, right? If this was the public server, you don't want to have builders building your world around you. So this gets built here, and once we are happy with it, we can schedule an update and update it to the actual public server for other players to work on. The other part is a plot area. So we can TP to both our build area, which is like a private storage, so only the team has access to this. Let's set it to date, set date. So this is an area of all of the plots that we have collected. A big feature of the server is different plots that you can build, and we have to store those somewhere. So we want to have like a big database of all the stuff that we can build. So these are the graveyards a city could build. These are the private housing, other decorations. So this is 13 by 13. We have 21 by 21. I think this is still 13 by 13. I'm not sure. This is definitely 21 by 21. So this is the bigger housing players could buy. So this gets built somewhere else. Once we are happy with them, we can move them here to actually like store them, approve them, and have like a big database of all this stuff. Something that we have been working on recently is housing for people who donate. So we want to have houses for those who donate. Not to make them more powerful, but just to give them a bit more options to say thanks for being a donator. So this is one of those possible houses. We want to have a similar style but slightly different, so it gives you options, more options in terms of building the houses. Last part of this one, of the build server, is actually the public part. So this is part you could have access to. If you want to, just hop into the description below, in the description box below. I'll leave a link to our Discord server. You can hop on and request access to the build server. So let's teleport to the trial world. And here it's a bit more flexible. We let anybody build anything. So you can see this one doesn't really fit the server, right? But people can try anything. So if you are a player, you can hop on here, have a go. And if the house is good, if it matches the structure, the Elpida style, we can actually decide, you know, this is good enough to be included in our server. So something like this, for example, this looks pretty decent. Maybe the wall couldn't use a bit more work. But if this is actually thought through, if this is decorated, it's not decorated, I think, yet properly. The upstairs is a little bit empty, or actually somebody decorated it. So if you do a good job, you know, if you spend time on the build server, especially before the server gets released, we can include all of these into the real server. So you can actually see people buying your own houses later on. And something that I would be excited to do later on, this is months from now, is let players build the donator houses. And if the donator pays for your house with real money, you could get maybe part of that money to actually be rewarded for making these things. But we'll have to discuss that later on. But I think that's an interesting option that could make it a bit more fun. So this is the build server. Another aspect of my work is actually overseeing the marketing. So because I pay for all the servers, right, I'm responsible for all of the financing. It's kind of my job to make sure that we have enough players to have enough interest to make it worthwhile for, not financially, but to make it fun for our team to actually create a product, right? So to do that, we need a good marketing campaign. We have two really good marketing people. We have Ari and Safiria. And what I do for them is basically just sometimes make art for the marketing stuff. So I have a Minecraft Frontiers folder, and this is basically all the art that we have for the server. So we have all the logos here. You can see some of them were never used. This is everything we have, right? So some of the branding will never be used. But somebody asked me for an MF logo today with Minecraft Frontiers written below it. So we don't have that in color. We have that in black and white over here. And we need a similar thing in color. So what I'll have to do later today is actually take these logos and add text below. Because everything is stored, we can edit really easily, right? This is the power of actually storing all of your stuff. We have a record of everything and you can go back to it. Same for screenshots. So sometimes I take screenshots for promotional materials, so you can actually see these on the websites. And even on some of our posts on the various forums where we advertise. So there's a lot of that here. Let's store here. We have the videos. Sometimes I make stuff for my videos and trailers. We have memes. Those are also really important, obviously. Maps. I cannot show you the map, but this is a map of all the dungeons. I think there's gonna be 8 to 10 different dungeons, maybe even more on release. And we have a map where all of those are. So we kind of want to spread them around the world. So we need a map of all the dungeons, where they are. Is there a place where there's no dungeons? Could we add dungeons into this place? So that's right here. Sometimes we add additional stuff like forum signatures, so extra stuff that basically, like, every single art piece has to be created somewhere, right? And usually that's done over here. Same for music. What you're listening to now in the background is the Minecraft Frontiers soundtrack. It's been licensed, so we have a big collection of songs. So this is what's gonna be released in 1.0, but there's even more songs coming to the experience later. Every single song has to be found, it has to be licensed. I have to do the licensing, I have to pay it, I have to save all the forms. I have the forms stored somewhere else, and then I have to make it into a thing that we can actually use on the server. This is 95 megabytes, right? It's already compressed, so we try to make it as small as possible while maintaining the quality. It's too big for a resource pack, so what do you do? How do you get it to a player? Luckily we have really good devs, so what they did is they created a streaming server for Minecraft Frontiers, and I think this is really cool. This kind of showcases that we can do complicated things, and a lot of the features that you see in MF are actually pretty complex stuff. So what this is this is a streaming platform. You can see it's super easy to access. You just click the link, takes you to the streaming service. And what this is like a Spotify for Minecraft Frontiers. So you can just leave it open in the background. And if you walk around the server, what this does is it detects where you're walking. So if you walk into the sea, it could say, oh, you're in a sea region, so we should play you a sea music. So if you go into the city, we should play you city music. If you go to a dungeon, you should get this specific music for this specific boss encounter, right? So it can be really elaborate. Once you go into that region, this thing, there's an error because I'm in no region at the moment, but if you were in a region, it detects this and it serves you a specific song for the specific occasion. This is really nice because you don't need to rely on resource packs anymore, and you can both add more stuff than the resource pack limit, so you can add more music. We need this because our music is really sizable, right? It's quite big. But you can also update it really easily. So what we're going to be doing is adding a lot of voiceovers. I think this is something that's not been done in many Minecraft projects before, but our server is going to have a lot of voiceovers finally, you know, after all this time. It's going to be really fun. So if you fight a boss, what I like about games is if they have really good sound and music. So if you fight a boss in our server, it's going to have the boss fight music depending on the boss, right? So you could hear music relating to the boss fight, but you'll also hear voiceovers from the boss. So if the boss is like a fire column, they will have really specific lines, memorable lines, right? So you want to remember the fight. The boss is gonna taunt you in a specific way, it's gonna shit talk you, it's gonna give you a lot of grief, right? So it's gonna make it a fun encounter for you. And all of this is possible because of the streaming server that we have actually set up. Super easy for us to add voiceovers. The player don't have to do anything, right? He or she opens the website, and they can get the music straight away, and they can get as many songs as we want. Super impressive. The last thing I do is just overlook the team. So the team is 12 different members at the moment. At our highest peak, so this is in 2016 when we had the most members, we had 40 different members. That's a full-time job just overlooking those people. So just looking after the staff takes a lot of time. So what my job is making sure the staff is the best staff for the job. At the moment, the staff we have is the best staff for the job. Over like the 4 or 5 years that I have been working on Minecraft stuff, or even non-Minecraft stuff, I have not seen a team so good as we have now. So the builder is amazing, the lore people we have are amazing, wiki is top-notch, right? And the plugins that we actually have are... It's really fun because whenever I talk to developers and I share my ideas with them, not our developers but other people from the Minecraft community, they're like, this is not possible. And when you tell it to Tom or Alex, they're like, give me 2 evenings and it's gonna be finished. So that's super impressive. Hopefully all of this translates into a really fun experience that all of the players can enjoy really easily, and not just enjoy but actually be a part of, right? So we're a community run thing, we're a community project, and what we would love you to do is be part of it. So not just play, not just explore, but get in touch with the staff, share your ideas, tell us what you'd like to see, and you'll actually, if you go to the forums, you'll see that we respond to every single comment that people make. So we have people dedicated to following the forums, making sure we understand what the players want, we hear every single piece of feedback, and we can actually implement that feedback, right? So we got a lot of feedback from the players in our previous tests, and they said they would like more crafting, they said they would want alchemy, so we added alchemy. If you tell us you want more combat or you want something that we haven't even thought of, right, you can share it on the forums and we can add it in super easily. So this is just a quick look into the background of the project, how it works, what to expect, and how to contribute. So if you actually want to be part of the decision making, you don't have to do anything special, you just have to be a player and you have to join our Discord. So if you check the description box, visit our Discord, just say hi in general, and you can start sharing your ideas. People share ideas all the time, and actually 90% of the staff we have today were players at some point. So what we don't like is hiring people we don't really know. If you are an engaged member of the community, you can be a well-known player, and if you want to take it a step further, you can actually become a staff member. And we have a few openings in building, we have a few openings in marketing, I believe, at the moment, art. So if you are knowledgeable in some of those areas, just give us a shout and you can be part of what I think and what hopefully other people think is one of the most ambitious and exciting projects in Minecraft in recent times. So thanks a lot for listening. If you think this was a good piece of content, just let me know in the comment section below. If you let us know in the comments on YouTube, we can actually produce more relevant content in the future. Let us actually know what you'd like to hear in the future. Is there something you would like to hear more about? Do you want to hear more about the forums? Do you want to actually see how we create items? What would you like to see specifically? Is there a specific aspect of managing the project or just specific feature in-game that you'd like more information on? So let us know and we can actually discuss that in future videos. Thanks a lot for listening. Give us a like if you enjoyed the piece of content. If not, don't give us a dislike, but tell us in the comment section what we can improve. And hopefully we'll see you around in the server when we open it in March. There's going to be a big launch event, so hopefully we'll see you there. We'll have a lot of exciting rewards, a lot of exciting events. There's going to be a huge live stream, a whole day of live streaming. So make sure to stop by and I'll see you all there. Thanks a lot and take care.